Hi, friends. Nice to be back. Good to see you. Good to be here. My name is Dean, and we got a full show for you today. We got a birthday to celebrate, a 15th birthday. That's 15th birthday of a business, one of our partners, two of the nicest people I know, two indomitable women. Muse Massage Spa.com. Maybe some pie.
I see what you did there.
What's that? Did you like how I did that? You want to get on mic so I can actually hear what you're saying? Super.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can now because you're closer to the mic instead of being 10 feet back from it, but it's super important just to get right in front of it. As a 35-year veteran of this thing, you want to be right in front of it.
Okay. All right, Dean. All right. Head down, laughing guy.
What does that mean, head down, laughing guy?
Well, because we never get you have a good laugh. You have a good laugh, and you never laugh on mic.
Do you want me to laugh on mic? You think I'm some kind of Pez dispenser of good times? Is that what you want? You just want me to laugh like you want me to laugh? I'm not doing that.
I feel like you avoid the mic when you're laughing because you don't want to give me the satisfaction of knowing that I said something funny. That's what I think.
You're like my girlfriend.
These
weird like micro conspiracy things.
That's
like I think you're laughing off camera because you don't want to admit that I'm actually funny on a podcast. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's just I've got a loud laugh, so I lean off the thing. I'm gonna laugh a lot today. No, I'm not admitting it. I think you're funny. I laugh.
You're doing it to hurt me.
No, I'm not doing it to hurt you, dude. This is too much like a relationship. If you keep talking like that, I'll want out. So the one thing I will say is this: is that you do make me laugh. As does Donald Trump. We're going to get to that. Things that make me laugh today. Donald Trump, jury deliberation is out. Day 2. He's going to get it for falsifying records and hush money payments to a porn star, which makes me laugh. I don't know if he's going to go to jail, but we'll kind of cover that and like what happens after. What's that?
Star, though, it's funny.
No, it's got to do with him falsifying business records. You know what?
Somehow this guy is the presumptive candidate for the Republican Party.
I know. No,
that's the funny part.
States,
and he might end up winning. That's the scarier part.
Right?
It's insane to me. It is so insane. Like I saw a clip of De Niro on Jimmy Kimmel last night.
Yeah.
And he's verklempt. Like here's an actor. He's been doing it for 100 years. Like comfortable behind a camera. And he can't even, he's just like
he's jacked up.
Because people just don't understand why the world is at where it's at right now, and the United States is about to put that donkey in again. Like it's insane.
It's super insane when you think about it, right? Like you think about a dude that falsified records, stole state documents, raped, pillaged, like literally raped, pillaged his way through his presidential career, his whole life. He's totally caught red-handed.
Narcissist.
Total fucking malignant narcissist. They catch him red-handed. They've got his fucking signature on falsifying records. They've got his signature. They've got like audio of him going, "Let's falsify the fucking records.
Well,
let's falsify."
And
you want cash?
His defense is always.
It's like, okay, here's a check.
And his defense is always like, "Of course I signed it. I signed a lot of stuff."
And people are like,
"It's unbelievable."
I don't know what I signed. I signed everything. People just put things in front of me. I signed everything. I've never in my life seen a guy who is so good at everything not know anything. Right? I've never in my life seen a guy who knows everything until it comes time to be accountable for what he knows. And at that time when he has to be accountable for what he knows, he's like, how am I supposed to?
We'll talk more about it because I want I want to know whether or not you think he's going to go to jail. But we should bring our guests in now.
Yes, we should. Celebrating 15 years as a business, Muse Massage Spa in Toronto, MuseMassageSpa.com. They've got now a brand new podcast called Muse on the Mic. Thank you for pulling my head out of my content ass and saying, let's get on to the guest. Ooh, a little
I don't have one of those birthday whistles, so that's the best I can do. Sorry, guys.
It's good. Keep it up. Please welcome back to the program two of my favorite human beings, Riley and Emily from .com, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Hi, ladies. How are we?
Hello, guys.
Congratulations. 15 years, right? 15 years in business. Like it is. Because I was there for day one. But first of all, congratulations. When is the anniversary? Who's going first? Rye, let's go.
Our actual anniversary is June 3rd.
Yes.
So it's coming up. Our grand party that we're throwing this year is on the 6th, Thursday the 6th. So it's all day, open to close, 9 a.m. to midnight. All the ladies are on staff. We've got raffles, prizes, contests. It's a great time, and it's free door fees all day for all the gentlemen.
What does that mean? What does free door fees mean? Like you don't have to pay at the door? You just
Careful.
You don't have to pay our portion of things. So we don't make money that day. That's our appreciation and gift back to our customers.
Oh, door fees.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I thought door fee was something weird, right?
So the price includes our portion as well as the girls. So we just waive our end of things that day.
You waive your door fee, do you? Can we just take a second and
do I have to get into a certain position to get that door fee? Like, what is it?
Listen, you're the yoga pro now. There's lots of
Right.
positions.
so fucked. That's so
Does it
fucked.
involve a tongue?
No, it doesn't. A door fee. Door fee. It's not a door fee.
Door fee.
You don't get a
Door
Like a
door.
cover charge.
Yeah, you
fee,
get
not a door fee.
The nude reverse is 210. The door
I went to
fee's
Muse. I got
250.
door feed. It was awesome.
The more you guys say the word, it sounds so terrible. It should be like a cover charge, but
Yeah,
door
yeah.
fee.
Yeah, door fee, cover charge. That's what it is.
Mhm.
If you said cover charge, you wouldn't have confused my very good friend Lochlin with the word door fee, where he thought it was like a
You piqued my
Cincinnati
interest.
backhander.
Yeah,
Door
it piques
fee.
my interest.
Door fee. Is that like the Cleveland steamer, Dean? That's what he was. That's what was
Do I
coming
have
up
to get
next.
into Happy Baby for this?
No, you don't. You don't. Well, listen.
Can I bring up something? I
Yeah, sure.
hate to sidetrack this, but this
No, you
is
don't.
weird.
You fucking love it.
June 3rd is
Yeah.
the anniversary of my little buddy's the first time he was 42. He's a little person, and it comes up on my calendar every year. And so the fact that you guys have your anniversary on that day, and I desperately want to send him to Toronto to your spa.
Yay.
He's a little person. Maybe I'll send him. You know what? Maybe I'll send him on the anniversary of when he got laid, because it's his 50th this year. That's
You
a good
should.
idea. I've got a plan. Let me write that down.
Do you have any
I've
little?
seen him on your Instagram. He's adorable.
He is
Yeah,
Jimmy. He's super
And
cute.
June 3rd, I don't know if that's gonna stick with me for the rest of my life. That because he was 42. It took him a while to get there.
That's friendship right there.
Yeah, it's something. All right. Okay. So Muse Massage Spa, 15, June 3rd, June 6th is the big day. No door fees. Door fees, by the way. No cover charge for the fellas. But I want to ask you a couple questions because, like, I was there day one-ish, right? Where you showed up to the radio station. We've covered this in the podcast. But what kind of fucking journey has it been for you two? Because you're both very successful entrepreneurs. You're also very good friends. You also used to work in the industry. I don't know who wants to go first, but I know the origin story of Muse, and we're talking unlicensed, above a laundromat, like you've heard the stories before. And now you guys are like a full-on tax-paying member of the Chamber of fucking Commerce business.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Going.
That was a summary. I love that. You know what? From humble beginnings, right? And sometimes that's the best of stories, and yet the bumpiest road. And you know, we've come to embrace all of our challenges for sure. But you know what? It was accumulation of basically my experience in the industry, and then conversations with customers and friends, and we knew there was something missing in the industry. And when we decided to open the biz, there was revolt across the entire industry. Every other owner, and then a few in particular, just really took a target to us, and their mission was to let us not succeed. And they spent a lot of time and money up until this very day to try to hinder us, stop us, mess with us, fuck with us, whatever they could. And you know what? It only made us stronger. It only made us better friends. And I feel like, I don't want to say we're ever invincible because I wouldn't want to tempt fate, but it takes a lot to rattle us these days because we kind of been through all just the shitty parts. It's nice to get to the celebratory side.
Do you think it has anything to do? I mean, obviously, we're dealing with an industry that, I mean, we know what the industry is, right? You guys are licensed, you're legal, but
Mhm.
so it makes no sense to me that the other businesses would come after you. Do you think it has, because you'd think they'd celebrate where you guys are at because you're kind of opening the door for the possibility of legitimizing their business.
Yeah, the industry. Yeah.
But do you think it has more to do with the fact that you guys are women?
I think partly. There's a lot of spas that are owned by women in terms of the facade. They're not truly owned by women. They're just, the woman is face forward. I think we're a bit loud when we came out. I think we changed a really stale industry. And I mean, as exciting as the industry is, and it is, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of orgasms. It's the same thing over and over for decades. And we came in and we stirred the pot. We changed the way we were doing things, which inevitably made them change the way they were doing things. And change is uncomfortable. So I think they benefited in the long run from our innovation, but I think it wasn't the most comfortable experience for them.
Yeah, well, because you talk about it continuing to this day, something that we deal with all the time, and we're going to talk about this publicly, is that, our YouTube channel got dinged and suspended for 2 weeks because we're partners. We talk about things in your business on the actual podcast. Emily, we had to chase down your Twitter handle because that got punked, and it was this mass complainant. It was like a ton of people complaining, and we did a little research into it, and it was just you. It wasn't me. It wasn't anybody else. It had to do with you. And when we found out where the complaints came from, they didn't come from like lobby groups or people. They came from other people that may or may not be in your industry, right? So not only, and dude, and Locke, here's the fucking crazy part, is that these girls are like market leaders when it comes to erotic massage in the city. And they're also educators. They've got a podcast called Muse on the Mic. It's a fucking great podcast. You can get it on Patreon, totally uncensored. And they're advocates. And they want to work with other competitors in the city, but it's literally... And Em, I could be wrong. Like the body rub industry in this city specifically is like the tow truck industry. It's like legitimately mobs of different groups of people. And you are two of like the shining stars in your industry that do things not just above board, but you've got a shop. You give people experiences. You do themes. You treat people well. You're not just hustling people in to get a load into a sock and then send them on their way, right? Like it's very, very different. Yeah, to get Dorfies.
The word of the day.
It's absolutely true, and I think that that's actually the thing that pisses them off the most. I've always believed, as we've kind of analyzed these weird conflicts with this coalition of particular owners on this mission to mess with us, they cannot stand that we are hot, smart, and nice. It's like unfathomable. And I'm sure a lot of that goes to stigma. I mean, some people could just look at me and say, oh, well, she was once a sex worker, so what the fuck does she know? I think a lot of sex workers are already stigmatized to assume they are stupid. But we both come from corporate backgrounds and had careers before opening Muse. And so we were able to take all that knowledge and my experience of friends and put it all together and come up with something better. And the louder we are, the more successful we are at it, the more it pisses them off. And I think the mass reporting is a perfect example. We've dug a little into that on our end as well. And we kind of figured some of this all along too, is that people will pay people to create bot systems that do things like this and just mass report. And we've looked into the cost of what that is just to be in the know of what these people love to spend. And I can't fathom a reason I would piss that much money away.
How much? I can ballpark it for you when it comes to mass reporting, but how much do you think they're spending on bots? Let me know and I'll tell you if I think you're in the ballpark.
I guess it depends how often they're doing it. If it's just all the time or if it's in spurts. But if I were to go to someone and say, look, I need you to create me this little system here and I want to run it for, I don't know, 6 weeks or something, they're probably spending 10 grand on that, at least.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. A pop. So 15 years. And we were the very first parlor on Twitter. And at first it was outrageous to be on Twitter. There was not that there was no sex workers, but sex work Twitter wasn't really a thing at all. And we were also the first where our staff started joining Twitter and they're actually operated by their individual accounts. We don't make their accounts for them. It's not some dummy account or a manager at front desk just tweeting, come see me today or anything like that. And we just kind of took over and the reporting started from there. And it's been continuous for 13 years now? Do that math.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
And that's just one aspect of the things that they do to us.
What's the other one? What else do they do?
Well, I mean, in the past, they tried to stop us from getting licensed. They spent inwards of
That's
around
so
200 G's to make that not happen, between private investigators trying to pay off our lender, who bailed 24 hours before our licensing tribunal, sending bylaw officers at us, cops at us, the tax man at us, like you name it. They've sent Better Business Bureau. We've had health and safety inspectors. Like you name it, they send everybody after us. And we're clean as a whistle. I'll say that from the rooftops, and that's why we're still here. But it gets to the point where building inspectors will not take reports about us because it's been so abused from these people doing this reporting that they're just like,
starting to backfire.
they don't even deal with us. As we've learned from some of the platforms where the podcast is, there's officially now a note on our accounts that like, hey, this is an issue with these people. Take note before reacting. And it's something that our bylaw officers, because they're kind of a local team, they're aware of. It's just constant, and it's annoying, and yet kind of we must be doing something right. And that was hard to digest the first few years for sure. Now it makes us a little cocky, but
Are
still
you
agreement.
guys? Can you give us a sense of how you and which one of you is better at staying positive than the other? I'll ask that. Is it hard to jump into the cesspool with them? Because it sounds like your strategy is to try to take the high road on this.
Yeah, we definitely are firm believers in karma. So we just don't allow ourselves. And trust me, I've thought many nights the things I want to do, and have access to do so. But we just don't. I don't feel putting that energy back out there is beneficial for Muse or for us personally.
Oh my God, you and I are
Yeah.
very
Dude, and it's been
simpatico,
like
Riley.
it's been nonstop. It's been nonstop. Like I've talked to M. I'll get a phone call or an email going, "Oh, I lost my account. Can you get it back?" And I'm like, "Okay, we're working on it." And we spent like at one point I spent like 2 days with Chris, who's our head of production, trying to figure out. And it wasn't just their Twitter account that was dormied, right? We got a note from our podcast host. They're like, "Okay, the podcast's been delisted." I'm like, "What the fuck? It's a heavily censored podcast. Like you can get the uncensored version of what these ladies do, which is absolutely fucking entertaining. And if anybody needs a great podcast where you want to feel a little bit risque, you want to feel a little dangerous, you want to learn a bit, you want to advocate, you want to learn about the industry, Muse on the Mic Patreon,
What's
Muse
a
on the Mic
Dorfy?
YouTube. They covered Dorfies in episode 7. Feels great. Looks a lot like a Cincinnati bow tie, but it's easier to say. No, but if you want advocates and you want people who literally take their job very, very seriously, which is really one of the impressive parts about both of you guys, is that you would think as people who came from the sex work industry and became entrepreneurs, you guys are just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. But we do significant business with these two ladies, and I can tell you this, Emily, one of the most impressive parts about both of you guys is how on it you are. Like you're business people before you came from any industry. You have turned into entrepreneurs. You're both two of the smartest people I know, but it still has to trigger that old resentment bone in your body, as Riley said, when you're sitting there at night going, "What could I do to Purple Lotus massage next week?"
We didn't get an answer. Who's more positive?
Right, I can take that one.
I would say it really is dependent on what's going on. I think it flips back and forth.
Can I guess?
I think as a general, I'd say Emily. Like as an overall answer, Emily. But there's times where I need to step into that role. And I think it's when you're in a partnership the way we are, and it's such an intimate friendship and business relationship that you know your partner. And I know when she's low, I've got to step up. There's no space for me to be in that same feeling, and vice versa. And it's something we rely so heavily on is just that balance of the other person will have me. They'll get what needs to be done.
What's
Very
been
true.
the best part of working together? Like obviously you two have been friends for a very, very long time, but what have
Pillow
you
fights.
learned? Other than the white t-shirt pillow fights. There you go, Locke. You gotta get that one in there. Other than the pillow fights, what's it like, and what have you learned about being each other's partners?
She's just the best human being I've ever known in the entire world. And I mean, I take a bullet for Riley, and she knows that. we have such a unique friendship. And I think the most amazing part, and it still amazes me constantly, is how we balance both work and personal. And I credit often that to us having a dual identity. We have aliases to protect ourselves in the industry. And even in one conversation, we switch back and forth between names just to make sure that everything's organized. But I don't want to give so much credit to just the fact that we have dual names. Lots of people have, a stage name. And I think it formed good habits for us right from the start on how to separate. We fell into our individual roles and strengths just completely organically. We've never had to have a meeting about like delegating or like split divide of labor. We just yin and yang so perfectly. And I think it's because our similarities are very similar and our differences are just very equal in terms of like the imbalance. So it always seems to just level out. It's amazing. Even as we've grown and evolved as women over the past 15 years, somehow that balance still maintains, even though it recalibrates.
Has your perspective of the job that you do changed over the years? Obviously, when you start, sex work is what it is, right? A lot of people get into it because options, interests, those things. But, to go from being in the industry to being an owner in the industry, has your perception of the industry changed over time?
I'd say, yeah, Riley. I think I feel
yeah,
more of an
it is.
advocacy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it started as, two girls with a dollar and a dream. And once we realized, okay, we're here to stay, we're going to be in this industry. And like we've spoke about on our podcast, if you guys don't know, there's 25 licensed body rub parlors that we hold one of the licenses. And I thank God that we do, because I think the industry needs Muse. And, obviously my opinion is biased, but we have a place here. And I think if we're going to be here, what can we do with that role? And that's kind of the evolution of us and Muse. And I mean, there's an aspect that's completely financial. This is our livelihood and we support our families. And then there's an aspect of what can we do on this platform? How can we help the women and the gentlemen and change the industry?
Was that always
the interesting thing about this industry is the perception is changing, and I don't know when that started, but I do know that in Edmonton and in because it's by city, right? Em?
Yeah.
So the city would regulate this industry, and
Yes.
I know that they go out of their way in certain cities to allow these parlors to exist, because at the end of the day, it's safer for sex workers to have a place to go, a roof over their heads, as opposed to something that's going to happen anyway, and it's going to be on the streets. And I think that shift has been positive from a political side of things. And it's, I found it interesting because we've talked about, not only on this podcast, but also in radio, I've talked about this industry and where it's gone. And I think we're even past the point of, because a lot of the conversation was, oh, they just turn a blind eye and let them exist. But now I don't think that's the case. I think they actually do care about your business and where you guys are heading, and the fact that you are protecting these women from
Harm.
Harm. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's levels to it. There's definitely differences between, local politics versus federal. Federal politics is not in our favor, and that change happened in 2014. Voting matters, and it's one of those things I didn't really care about until I was a business owner. It's selfish to say you don't always care about political things until it affects you, and it did. Suddenly it really mattered. And we're lucky in Canada that at the local level, like you were just saying, Lochlin, with cities, is that the licensing already existed in many of them before these federal changes happened. And so there was already established grandfathered businesses and working under the constructs of what used to be decriminalized system. And we moved into something called the Nordic model, thanks to the conservative government, federally in 2014, where now technically the criminality is in the purchasing of sexual services and no longer in the selling of sexual services, which off the hop might sound great, but if you're a street level worker, that is actually quite dangerous, because the customer is the criminal. And so therefore you get a shittier base of clientele, because people that have a lot to lose are not going to take those kinds of risks. And it changes how law enforcement at a local level treats you and all those kind of things. But a decriminalized system is ideal. And that's what I love about the fact that even though we're regulated and licensed, we are not monitored or managed by government or by police. It is a system where as business owners, we can make decisions for our own company and decide policy and safety. And for us, I don't think we ever, when starting the business, at least not in the conversations we ever had, we're like, let's be advocates for all the hookers and all the land. Like, I don't think that was the goal. But as soon as we got doxxed by our competitors, that really changed things. After the fear and tears and horror and family shock and all that fun stuff kind of faded out, we had a decision to make. Are we going to roll with being face forward, or are we just going to cowl and hide? And we chose to do things like start a fucking podcast.
There's nothing like putting it on Front Street with a podcast where you're like, go fuck yourself. This is what we do, and we're going to talk about it. Sorry, Em, go ahead.
We knew the hate was going to come. It was eerily quiet the first few months of the pod. And I did say to Riley several times, like, something's brewing. Like, it's in my bones. I know how these people operate. It's the quiet before the storm. They're not happy that we're making yet another splash. Too bad, so sad. You know, we all should have done it during the pandemic. Shame on us, right? So we take the risks, but with that risk means other kinds of risks, and being doxxed means safety in this industry. And we had the choice to either grab the reins and control ourselves and take control of the narrative and then use that for good, or to just cowl and hide. And I love that we took the approach that we have. We get to discuss politics. We get to be involved in those kinds of decisions. I was immensely involved in the fight to stop the Nordic model from becoming law of the land back in 2014. And it launched me into a different aspect of my career as well, where I got to speak different places and was invited to teach workshops and be on panels and do radio shows and all kinds of fun things. And that was never in the plan of what Muse could be. But the more those things started to happen, I mean, we've been written about in magazines. We've had articles done about us. Like, I'm just waiting for the call from Netflix because we got stories. But in general, like, there's a lot to it that people don't know about. And some of that is scary. And I think on season 2 of our podcast, we're going to jump into some of those dicier topics, because so far we've talked about the fluffy stuff, the horny stuff, the happy successes. We haven't really talked too much about the dangers of what a bad day at a parlor looks like. And I wish I could stop all bad days, but if anything bad is going to happen, I'd rather it be where we have an ability to make it better or to resolve the situation or stop it from happening again, versus stories I hear from outside our 4 walls, because we have no control in how women are treated out there, but we push through our public appearances.
Your perspective is interesting, and it's like, I just hearing you speak now, I have an opinion, and I want to change it now based on what you're saying, right?
I love that.
I think he's just saying that.
No, I'm serious.
No, he's serious. I am too, because you eloquently talk about the industry. You talk about the political aspects of it, right? You talk about how the conservatives in 2014 went to the Nordic model, something that you and I have discussed, in the criminalization of sex work in this country, the continued criminalization of sex work in this country, and the danger it puts the customer and the sex worker at. Is that why you got into the advocacy portion, or were you, was this just a natural thing for you, where both of you come from the industry, you become owners in an industry, and you go, okay, we've got a more altruistic purpose, other than obviously to make money and for this to be a business? Because that's a real theme behind your podcasts. You talk a lot about, you advocate for everything from kink to sex workers, to safety for sex workers, to insurance for sex workers. But the advocacy part is really, really strong in your podcast, ladies. Is that why? And where does that courage comes from to be face forward? Because man, oh man, I remember the article when, so advocacy, where does that courage come from? Because I remember the article when Riley was in the Toronto Sun, and it was a picture of her, and it's like, this person's real name, and she runs Muse. And I remember opening it up at work one morning going, oh my God. But it's still a legal business, but they still came for you, right? So again, back to that courage. Where does the courage come from, and why did you decide to pivot to advocacy as much as you have?
I think a lot of the courage comes from Riley.
No, I have to disagree, but
It's the leopard print.
I don't think being advocates in the industry was the intention at all. I think Emily has certainly stepped into that role a little louder than I have, and she enjoys public speaking. She's extremely intelligent, which you guys know. So I think she's fallen into that role. That certainly wasn't our goal in opening Muse, but she's embraced it and she's amazing at it. So I always kind of tip my hat to Emily because she's fantastic.
Look at that. Look at that.
I love you.
Look at
There's
that.
a certain amount of normalization that I think needs to occur from the perspective of what you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I wonder if you've noticed a difference, a change in how the customer views you. Like, you've been doing this for 15 years. Is the guy still coming in like this? Or are they walking in with their buddies going, we're here for a Dorothy, right? Like,
I think
has that changed?
It's definitely both. It's definitely both. I think there'll always be nervous nillies, new guys that don't know what they're walking into. It could feel a little awkward. I'd probably be shitting my pants nervous too. I got to give them at least that much grace. But for the ones that have been around, or kind of, I noticed even a newer generation, guys that are 30 now were very different than 30 back then. They're definitely more comfortable. Not that they're going to be like high-fiving each other in the hallway or anything as they pass. We try not to let customers pass each other. At the same time, nowadays we book private events and bachelor parties where it's just a bromance. So like people are changing. I think the pandemic shifted a lot of opinions on sex work because a lot of people relied on it suddenly for income. And I think there are parts of the world that are moving forward progressively in terms of like societal opinion at a much better pace than we are here. I will give a nod to Belgium, for example. In the last couple of weeks, they've not just legalized sex work, but they now are qualified for pensions, for health insurance, for workers' claims if they get injured at work, all kinds of different benefits and bonuses and proper rights and freedoms and things that any worker in any physical labor should be involved in, because laborious work involves all things, not just sex work, and equal rights should be across the board.
Yeah. And anybody that has sex with people like myself or Lochlin, it is labor. So they do deserve some insurance.
You're not doing it right.
Depends.
Yeah.
Depends on what day of the week it is.
Yeah, depends on what day of the week it is. How much
I
time to drink.
pulled something in my hip in pickleball last night. I'm gonna have to take a break.
15th anniversary, MuseMassageSpa.com. Go and check it out. Go and download their podcast. These are two of the nicest people, smartest people. It is an absolute pleasure to be your partners. It is an absolute pleasure to know you. So grateful for what you guys do, Emily and Riley. Please go and check them out online, MuseMassageSpa.com, and see what they do. Go and download their podcast anywhere you get your fine podcasts as well. Crier Media, you can get it. On Patreon, it is uncensored there. Give them a sub. It's like a couple bucks a month. Big deal. You're going to feel all dangerous after that, too, because they don't hide anything on the Patreon thing. So, and of course, the YouTube channel. Riley, great to see you both. I know you're busy and you're taking your time. Thank you so much, and congratulations. It is an absolute honor to know both of you. Good work.
Thank you so much, guys. You guys have been wonderfully supportive.
Anytime.
Take care, guys.
All the best. Emily, Riley, MuseMassageSpa.com. Check them out online. You can give them a follow anywhere you get social media as well. Smart girls. Fun girls.
I always enjoy our pods with the Muse girls.
I do too.
It's eye-opening. Right? You wouldn't expect, all right, we're having the Muse girls on today. You wouldn't expect to learn as much as you do from them when we have them on, right? That's what's interesting to me. It's always like, and Emily has a very unique way of presenting her side where you can't help but think, okay, you tend to start rethinking your position on things. Not that I had a negative position on, but she brought up stuff even today where I'm like, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Well, just from a safe place to work, right? How many women, specifically sex workers, are subjected? Like, sex workers are murdered at 15 times the rate everybody else is murdered, right? Abuse 20 times the rate everybody else gets abused. It is terrible in indigenous communities. We hear the stories from out west a lot. Hear the stories from out east, all these indigenous women that are in sex work that have gone. These women provide a place and an opportunity for other women to go and work in the oldest industry in the world. Not only do they do that, they advocate for them as human beings. They give them all kinds of opportunities to upskill. And so what they decided to do when they put the podcast together was do what you just said, was like, hey, listen, we can tell all the greasy stories we want, but man, oh man, we need to change some minds. And if you go download their podcast, you get that real heavy feel from it, which is advocacy, which is sticking up for the human beings that are in the industry out of necessity. Maybe a lot of people get into that industry because, everywhere they turn, they don't feel qualified. And what are they qualified to do? Well, just to put food on the table. Some of them are moms, some of them are dad. But the one thing I will say this is that as I talk to those girls about a female body rub parlor, my mind goes to opportunity. And I think, man, oh man, I've never heard of an all-male body rub parlor. But in a pinch, you and I could open up our own, and it would be a lot of fun. Just dudes, just a good time. Vending machine like Curtis from Alberta, the guy that loves the Leafs, vending machine full of beer in the corner, each room, right? You get a big screen TV in each room, and you can hire and have anybody else in that room that you want. It is weird. I don't know of a male body rub parlor, but
yeah,
I think that it's rude if we don't look into starting one in terms of equal opportunity.
Listen, this sounds like the brainstorming level of an idea, and I don't want to be that guy.
That shit's
because
over.
the rule is there's no bad ideas when you're brainstorming.
It's a pretty bad idea.
This is an awful idea. Yeah, and you're on your own. But I wish you all the luck in your future endeavors.
The guy that can get rich doing that, a rub and tug, male rub and tug,
has very soft hands.
That's and he's a great talker, right? He's like the world's best sales guy. He's really good. Hey, congrats on a big Oilers win last night. 5-3 was that the final score?
5-3.
2 dick early, and then they stormed back 3 in the second, 2 in the third, put it away.
5 unanswered goals.
Yeah.
Perry was back in the lineup, which I kind of predicted. I thought Nobby, listen, he's interesting. So there's 4 coaches left, right? We're in the conference finals, the East and West. It's interesting. He's the one with the least amount of experience. And I don't know, man. He might be out coaching everybody left. I mean, if at the end of this, this run here, the Stanley Cup Finals, we might be looking back at Nobby as the impact player. I don't want to jinx him. I don't want to get carried away here. But last night, that was a coaching.
How are you feeling? Sure. How are you feeling?
I knew
how's
that
the city? No, how's the city? I want the vibe. I don't want what you know. I don't want your hockey knowledge. Is the city on fire? Are people losing it?
The city is
are people
going
running around with flags?
crazy.
Lots of people honking after wins. Like you're downtown Edmonton, right? You're in a nice area of the beautiful city of Edmonton.
But I
city
think
of champions, Queen Victoria's city on the prairies. But is the city on fire like,
Yes.
Toronto would be if the World Cup was out, where it's like, depending on what time the game's over, honk, 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 people riding up and down the streets, go Oilers, go Oilers. Because I miss that. We don't get to do that a lot in Toronto, as you know. Not a lot of pride here.
Well, it's Canada's team. You can jump on the bandwagon if you want.
I feel like it. But are people stoked? Is there a belief? Does it feel different this time? Walk me through it, because I want to know. I'm jealous.
Okay, so from a feeling perspective,
yes,
there was a lot of tension, and I think that tension was amplified yesterday and the day before after that loss on Monday night. And here's why. Because in the 3 games, we've had moments where Dallas has controlled the play. But if you take the score off the TV screen and just watch those games, don't show any of the goals, and go, who won what game? Everybody and anybody who knows anything about hockey is going to go, well, clearly Edmonton won all 3 of those games. They outplayed Dallas, and Dallas hung around. Obviously, Ottinger factor, right? So I think there was some tension because it just doesn't feel like 3 games that Edmonton should be down 2-1. I said it countless times, and I didn't have a problem saying it yesterday. There's no way in hell Edmonton loses game 4 based on how they've been performing so far in the playoffs. And again, people go after certain players for their performance one way or the other. It's the playoffs. It's sports. They make a lot of money. I don't feel sorry for them. Everybody was all over Nurse, even though I don't think that was warranted on the behalf of how he's played. But listen, this team as a whole, they are playing playoff hockey. They have been now for months, and you can just see it. You get a sense they want it. And there's moments where people pick out, deficiencies here and there. Skinner, you shouldn't have done this. But overall, this city is behind this team, and there's a good reason.
Like before,
they're playing unbelievable.
Yeah, I know, but are they
unbelievable?
But there's behind the team, and then there's okay. We believe this is real, right? Like nobody got behind the Leafs last year when they got to the second round, because even though they got to the second round, you just knew. Same thing this year. You get the game 7, you're like, we're just going to lose. And it's a foregone conclusion. That's in our minds. So we don't let ourselves kind of believe, right? Like physically believe. But there's a different feeling this year in Edmonton. That's my point. That's why I'm asking. Like people are like, yeah, I think we might get to the Stanley Cup final, which would be a Stanley Cup win for any Canadian team, right? Just getting to the Stanley Cup final.
Well, you said that. I didn't. Because, again, like I said, I don't want to jinx the team. But there has been a belief behind this team that I haven't seen in
a long
years.
time. Yeah.
The last couple of years, there has been a very strong support for overall, that this team has what it takes to get to the next step. Again, are there deficiencies? Are there things that they could do? Absolutely. This team, they're sticking together. They're playing as a team. They've figured out team defense. They have mental breakdowns here and there. Dallas is just, like I said, I've been calling them hang around Dallas because they sit there, and then all of a sudden, boom, oh, it's tied. Oh, Ottinger saved that. Ottinger, and then all of a sudden they're ahead. It's been a tough series to watch, but there's still a belief that the Oilers are going to make a go of it here.
Interesting.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah. No, I'm glad. I just wanted to see how the city was feeling. They're coming out of their fucking minds.
You're in Toronto. You're tainted by the Leafs and what they do every year.
I'm jealous.
That's what this is.
Like I just said it. No, I'm not tainted. I'm jealous. I'm jealous because there's nothing better than a city when one of its teams is on a fucking deep run, right?
Yeah.
Like I was around when the Leafs were going to Eastern Conference Finals back in the early 2000s with Sundin and Darcy Tucker, Shane Corson, that whole crew, Tom Fitzgerald.
I love Tucker. What a great player.
Yeah, he was awesome. And I'm jealous. I think everybody is, right? You got a Canadian team that's in it. Thank God it's the Oilers. It's really easy for me to go from the Leafs to the Oilers. It'd be very difficult for me to go from the Leafs to the Habs if they were still in it, or any other team in the league. Even Vancouver. I'm like, I do not like the Vancouver Canucks. Never have, but I would still be all in. It's just a really nice thing for the country, really nice thing for the city, and totally jealous because it's a totally different vibe, right? Like, when your team is in it and you're in a deep run and you see the car flags and people excited, people running around, they ruin the hood of their car with like a wrap, like a maple leaf wrap. And, everybody paints their face. You show up to work with the jerseys and everybody's taking pictures. It's like, that's what's going on in your city. It's a together thing. It's a unity thing. We don't know that here. We haven't experienced that for some time. And I think it's fucking awesome that you're going through it. That's all.
And I think we're getting less overall Canadian support. Like, people are behind the team.
Yeah.
But it's more casual. I think if Edmonton was more of an underdog story, like let's say they were the Ottawa Senators on a run this year.
Yeah.
I think it would be easier for the country to get behind that team.
A little sad Cinderella story. Yeah.
Yeah. See, we have two of the best players that have ever played the game playing here in Edmonton. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think there's a little bit of animosity is not the right word. So I think Leaf fans, fans from other franchises may not be supporting the Oilers as much as they could be, and it's not like this big Canadian movement to cheer on the Oilers to the Stanley Cup. But maybe that'll change if they do get past Dallas and they end up playing for the Cup, 7 games for the Cup. But I don't know. Are you getting the sense that the rest of the country is all of it's like on the bandwagon and we're going?
Yeah, yes and
it.
no. I think it's kind of be like, you know, when the Raptors were having a bit of a season back in 2019, they won a championship.
That was an underdog story.
Well,
though,
I know,
right?
but nobody in Canada knew who the Raptors were outside of Toronto. Obviously, the only NBA team in the country. And you got into it like in the conference finals and in the NBA finals. That's when everybody got into it. That's when the country was like, okay, I can buy into this. I'm going to watch this one of Canada's
teams. We need to get to
teams.
the next step. Yeah.
Hasn't happened 23 years. But yeah, you get out of round 3 and into a Stanley Cup final. I think you're going to see a bunch of people really come out and support the team. I think you're going to see Canada really get behind it.
As much as I hate the Habs run when they beat the Leafs.
Yeah. That final lost.
Yeah. Like, the country seemed to get on board a little bit more, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too engrossed in what's happening in Edmonton, and I'm not seeing what's happening with the rest of the country. But
no, there's nothing going on in the rest of the country. Canucks are out. Canada, Edmonton's the only team left. They get all our support. And speaking of support, I've always understood people that paint their face, people that show up and cry when their team loses. Right? Like I've always understood that. Tears when your team loses, tears of joy when your team wins. That's the level of support that we see for politics now. And I don't know if you're watching jury deliberations in the Trump trial down in the United States of America, which is a absolute shit show right now. As you know, he's falsifying records and he's got this big trial because he paid off Stormy Daniels. Not only did he falsify records, this is significant for a couple of reasons. One is he's legitimately the Republican nominee for fucking president of the United States of America.
Which is insane to me.
That's unbelievable. There's down to 2 guys, him and Joe Biden, and he's the guy. So, and he's also the former president of the United States. And he's about to get convicted of falsifying records for having sex with a porn star and paying her off. Yeah, I think he's going to get convicted. He's charged with 34 counts. Everything from falsifying records, fraud, elections violations, et cetera, et cetera. It's a Stormy Daniels thing. Of course, they spent 6 weeks doing this. Jury deliberations go out yesterday, and they continue today, and everybody's in a lather. Everybody's excited, but everybody's also now talking, right? And I'll get to that in just a second because people now see this guy as vulnerable, right? They think that he's going to get convicted. That is the overriding concern right now for a lot of people. They say, yes, he's going to be convicted of some of the 34 charges of falsifying records. But I know you all hate him. I can't fucking stand the guy either. These are pretty minor things in the United States legal system. Falsifying records, everybody in the United States does it, from everything from getting a mortgage to, signing a marriage certificate. It is just one of those things that happens. And so these are not real big crimes. However, because it happens in the States all the time. Because he's the president of the United States, it's a big deal. And everybody wants him to get charged with a crime, and they want him to be a criminal because there's this myth out there that if you are a criminal or have a criminal record, you cannot run for office. That is not true. He can not only still run for office, even if he's convicted, and even if, which I don't think he will, gets a jail sentence, you can legitimately run for office from prison. See the United States guy down in Texas who's killed his wife, murdered his wife who had cancer, and he won the GOP nomination for Texas Senate from a jail cell after getting convicted of killing his wife who had cancer. Legitimately. So it's not like this is going to impede his progress to become the president. However,
something with the January 6th hearings that are next.
Yes.
If he gets charged with sedition, that
precludes him.
That could eliminate him from
running for office. Yes.
But that trial might not ever happen. So I don't know you're right. I don't know what the difference is between the two, but there is a level of being charged or being a criminal in the States where it does actually eliminate you from your ability to run for office.
And if you tried to put together a coup, or you're convicted of sedition, or
Yeah.
treason, yes, you are precluded for running for office. This is not that, though. This is, he paid
This
a
is
porn
different,
star
yeah.
130 grand. And apparently the judge, Mershon is his name. He sent the jury back yesterday, gave him some transcripts. They asked for a couple of other items when the jury started to deliberate, which was weird. Every legal pundit out there is now saying today that what the jury asked for were transcripts from David Pecker, by the way, still the best name in the whole trial, and Michael Cohen, and their specific collaring of Donald Trump as the guy, the mastermind, the dude. And then they asked for a charge, and the charge was what the judge in the case told them to do when they deliberate. He charged the jury with doing things a certain way, and it has to be unanimous, but not all the convictions do. And so now the jury is looking at every single one of these charges. And from my understanding from everybody that has weighed in on it is that of the 34 charges, there will be a bunch he is guilty of. They do not expect him to serve any time. They do not expect him to serve any time from this, but they believe that is still a distinct possibility because it is the judge's discretion to deliver the sentencing after the jury delivers a conviction of guilty or not guilty. So it's up to the judge. And the judge, in this case, fucking hates the guy. So we'll see. I don't
I
expect
think
him to go to
everybody
jail,
in
but
New
it's gonna
York
be
hates him. So that's
incredibly exciting.
one sort of interesting angle here is that this is in New York, and like Robert De Niro, we played a clip of him yesterday, and you've seen he's on a campaign trail right now to discredit Trump, which is odd. I don't know if that's going to actually benefit the Dems, but whatever. But two things from my observation of this case, because you can't help but catch glimpses, and if you watch any news at all, it's dominating the news cycle right now.
Oh, it's huge.
But two things. One for me with this case that just has become very evident is that I should never, ever, ever be asked to serve on a jury. I would be in the jury room going,
The fuck are you people
I'd be in the
doing?
jury room going, what are our options here?
How
like-
fast can we get out of here?
Because I've already decided. Like, do we need to continue on with the trial?
Do you know what's really funny?
Hey, raise your hands if everyone just wants to go guilty right now. I'd even be willing to like talk about the possibility of a death penalty here.
Yeah.
Like, is that a thing? Can we do that right now?
Yeah.
Because you know what? Like, listen, the new Deadpool's coming out soon, and I don't want to miss that in theaters.
You know what was really funny is I was listening to these two pundits, these two talking heads talk about it, including his former lawyer, this guy named Ty Cobb. And Aaron Burnett was like, okay, so when do you expect this trial to be over? When do you expect the jury to deliver a verdict against the president of the United States, which might send him to jail? And the dude's like, probably by Friday, because these people want to get a head start on the weekend. And he was fucking serious. Like, he was like, the jurors don't like sitting through the weekend, so they'd probably want to go to the RV park.
Episode 4 of Welcome to Wrexham's out, and I want off this thing right now. I got guilty on all 34 charges.
They need to figure out everything by Friday because half of the jurors have a Yellowstone trip planned. Like, they're going to change the direction of the United States because people live for the fucking weekend. I loved it.
Here's my other thing. And I don't know what this means for the possibility of a guilty verdict versus a non-guilty verdict, but I'm leaning towards I don't think this is going to benefit Trump, and I don't know how his lawyers let this happen. But there's 2 lawyers that are actually serving on this jury. So what is there, 10 of them or 12 of them or something? And then there's 6
I think there's 8. If I'm not mistaken, 8 to 10.
It doesn't matter what the numbers are. 2 of them are like practicing lawyers. Yeah. So I think what's interesting about that is you've got 2 people that know how the law works.
Yeah.
Right. And they understand the minutia of what it is they're hearing in the testimony and how it's being delivered. So those 2 guys, and take out any, like, whether or not they like Trump or don't like Trump, are going to put pressure on the other jurors to
Figure
do
it
the
out.
job properly.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Oh, totally.
take
And
it-
can you
and to
imagine
take
being one
it
of those
seriously.
lawyers because you know the law back to front, and you're sitting there with like 8 other yokels going,
Yeah.
I don't know, and you're like, I do actually, I know, I'm a lawyer,
So-
and they're like, I don't know, no, I did. Let's get the fuck out of here. Like we only get $150 a day. I want to get to the RV park on the weekend because someone's coming to clean the kiddie pool in behind the actual trailer. And so they're like, okay, well, great. Let's just get this done. To your point, that would be super fucking annoying. If you've ever tried to teach anybody something that not a lot of people understand, it takes for fucking ever.
But I
For
mean, it might
fucking
go the other
ever.
way, Dean. Might go the other way where they're not only immersed in how important their job is,
Mhm.
right? And they got 2 people that are schooling them on that. If the rest of the jurors are open to the the conversation, like
Yeah.
you said, they might not be, but if they're open to the idea, you've got 2 people in there that are going like, this is history making stuff here. We have to really do our due diligence here, and we have to make. And I'm leaning towards that does not benefit Trump. I think that hurts him in the long run here. I still don't think he'll serve any jail time, but I have a feeling that this is not going to end well for him. And I don't know why the 2 lawyer thing had such an, like when I found that out a couple of weeks ago that there was 2 lawyers on this jury
on
panel.
the jury. Yeah, you knew
I
he
was like,
cooked.
ooh,
Yeah.
like that can't help Trump. That was my thought process on that. And you know what? Maybe I had my head up my ass, but
I don't think you do. I think you're right. It's kind of what everybody's repeating, dude. Like everybody's talking about it now because of the jury questions that came back. Only 2 questions came back, and every legal pundit was like, the questions that the people that ask those questions are people that are probably going to return some kind of guilty verdict. To your point. So, but you're right. It could go the other way. Let's get to the people outside the courthouse. Let's leave the inside of the courthouse.
One more thing before you play that video. Everything that I've been hearing too from the pundits is that this has been a very studious jury. So, the weekend is coming. And I get the jokes and all that, and it is funny that's what it might come down to. But I have a feeling that this group is going to take their time with this. I don't think we're going to hear anything before the end of the week. And I bet you it takes at least another week. It might be the end of next week before we hear back from them, because I think they were taking a lot of notes. They were very studious. They were asking questions, and they're saying that as a whole on the group, right? That's the sense that from what I've been hearing on the reporting about the jury.
No jury decision yet. So yeah, you're right. I've heard the same things. People like are taking this actually fucking seriously, which is kind of nice.
And so they should. As much of a joke as Trump is, it's still a very important decision.
I'd be so excited if I got picked for jury duty for that. You could write a book after the fact. You can get rich just because you served on jury duty. It'd be a lot of fun. The people outside are not having fun though.
There's no way I'd make it into that jury.
People outside not having fun. These are the people that you know how Trump likes to bring a circus with him everywhere he goes to make it look like people support him, right? That's why he pays people to show up to rallies. Says he's got hundreds of thousands of people outside the courthouse crying for him to be released, where he's trying to prove to everybody that America is going to be in hell in a handbasket if they don't, if he has to serve jail time. Yesterday, I believe he said the world would lose trillions of dollars if he's convicted. That's what he said. America and the world. He also said there would be a bunch of terrorist attacks and that there would be no more wars if you elect him. And to get elected, you can't charge him because a president, this is what he said. First, he said Mother Teresa wouldn't be able to beat these charges. Then he said, effectively, that these charges are bogus because if you're the president once, you should basically be immune from prosecution for everything for the rest of your life. That's what he said. Legitimately. That's what he said. And there's some people that agree with him, like these guys who are outside. I want you to pay special attention to these MAGATs, these freedom-loving Trump peons, crying
really
as they pray to him, crying as they evoke his name like he's deity. This is outside the courthouse. Watch this. This is fucked.
Jesus the Lord.
God, God help. Thank you. Bible, Holy Bible is for
Guy. Yeah.
He's a we need you. You need your help, God. We need your help.
What is going on?
I love this so much. These people are so fucked. They're praying and bawling and weeping their eyes out. This was as the jury got its message from the judge to go and deliberate the future of their God King, Donald Trump, which they believe is a God. These people believe he's a God. So they're praying to him outside the front. This is a cult. Like I've said this 1,000 times. MAGA, MapleMAGA, this is a cult. They are praying to Donald Trump for Donald Trump's release. They are also evoking the name of Jesus, who a lot of these people have said is the reincarnated version, Donald Trump, the reincarnated version of Jesus Christ, who's here to take over the United States. So these people believe prophetically, some are Catholic, some are not, some are Christians, but these people believe prophetically that Donald Trump is a god, and that is why they are outside. They believe that. She's crying, bawling. This other woman, bawling. Trump 2024, bawling.
I don't hate the bucket hat.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent bucket hat. It's better than the Tilly hat. Hands in the air. I don't even know what to say. Like,
it's
I'm
so
sure these
bizarre.
people, if you get them in a room and they're not talking about Donald Trump, I'm sure some of these people would be somewhat normal. You know, I'm sure you'd be able to, like, hey, how's the weather?
No,
hey,
no,
are you a Red Sox fan?
No.
Hey, what do you think about the climate change? Hey, it's hot today. Like, I'm sure you'd be able to have a decent conversation with him.
No, you're very wrong.
But
there.
someone who counts Donald Trump to be some kind of god, enough that they show up to a courthouse in New York for all of his trials, including the ones he was just convicted of, $500 million, by the way, for raping E.G. and Carol and then lying about it for a few months after the fact. And then, of course, this one. Then, of course, he's got his other one. They're literally of the mindset that he's the chosen one. And they're willing to do anything. They don't even know the guy. And by the way, he hates all of them. All of those people that you saw were women of color. He hates women of color. Absolutely hates people of color. And to the point where Bill Pruitt, who is the Apprentice producer, his NDA just kind of relaxed. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen reports on Bill Pruitt?
Was that the one that had to like change his diapers or something like that?
No, that was Keith Schiller. He was his body man. He used to change Trump's diaper. Anyway, Bill Pruitt just wrote an article for Slate Magazine because his NDA is working on his time working on The Apprentice, which, by the way, came with a $5 million fine and jail time if you broached it. Not only spilled the beans about how much of a misogynist rapist he is, but he also spilled the beans about how much of a racist he is. Effectively saying, I don't have it here. Effectively saying that he couldn't let one of the Apprentice guys win. His name was Kwame Brown, over a guy named Bill Ranchich, because he didn't think America wanted an N-word winner. N-word winner. And story after story about he objectified women, said the woman behind the camera was too heavy, get her away from me, like that kind of stuff, like general shit. But apparently there's a video that's coming out that is going to be paired with this movie called The Apprentice. Have you heard of this? The Apprentice is this movie, a reenactment, Winter Soldier.
I have heard
guys
that
in
they're going to do a movie on that, like a doc.
And Donald Trump sent a cease and desist order because it includes several scenes in it where he sexually assaulted his wife, among other things, making those same racist statements. So it's a reenactment of some of his worst moments that people can co-sign because there is either video documentation of it or there's proof that he said and did those things. Which
doesn't it make it even crazier? Like, I mean, all this stuff comes out about him, right? Yeah. And none of it's surprising. And a lot of it might be, you know, it might be tactical as well. We don't know. It might be listen. I'm not saying it shouldn't be coming out. I'm saying it might be coming out now because it's a good time to try to knock this man down because he's running for president. But it is still crazy. It is still crazy that this guy is getting a second chance to run the most powerful country in the world. And
It's fucking awesome
listen,
to watch.
I don't want to get into the conversation about whether he did what he did was good or bad during his 4 years, but you can't deny. Like, let's just take that out of it. Take whether he did anything. He could have saved mankind. The guy comes with chaos. Like, there's complete and total chaos surrounding his name and everything he does every moment of his waking life. How is he an option? It just doesn't make any sense to me. That's the crazy. It's not even about the specifics for me. It's about take 1,000-foot look at this man and what he is and what he represents. He's still a better option for so many people.
I know. Well, people who
it's
are delusional or have self-interest, right? People whose money is tied to deregulation, people like oil people, gas people, all that shit. They all will vote for Trump and they'll turn their nose up and go like this and they won't tell anybody that they did it. And it's the crazies, right? It's the crazies that he has been able to collect along the way. It's the same thing up here with politics, is that, the targeting of people whose minds are literally mush to be part of your group. And case in point, again, this is yesterday, how we had the crying prayer circle of immigrants that think that Trump is God and God is love. British couple showed up to the courthouse yesterday. They're just on vacation in New York, show up to the courthouse because they're like, we just came down here for the fun of it. I want you to watch the interaction with this tourist couple, British couple, who showed up to the courthouse in New York and got chased off by Trump supporters in what could quite possibly be one of the most appropriate videos that you will ever see of what a Trump supporter looks like, what someone from MAGA, the cult MAGA, or MapleMAGA looks like, acts like, without any information. It is just, as you point out, sheer terror and chaos. Watch this with me. This is
disgusting, aren't they? What disgusting people.
What do you think about the response that happened? You were having a conversation with them.
Well, we were actually here purely for entertainment value. We're from England.
Keep going, Joe.
Oh, God.
Take your team. Get the fuck out of my car.
We got it.
Fuck the queen. Fuck the king. Fucking cunt.
She's leaving. Just stop.
Fuck out of here. Burn in hell, you liberal fuck.
Alright, bro, she's out.
And we enjoy watching Trump on the TV, and we cannot. John!
he wants to get the fuck out. He's like, listen, these people are too crazy. These people are too crazy. Dude, I can't imagine
I don't get
the meltdown in MAGA land if the dude gets convicted. Like, because they're not going to look into the fact that he's probably not going to serve any jail time. They'll just start offing themselves. That's how into this guy they are, which is fucking incredible when you think about it, because it's a religion. MAGA is a religion at this point. Cult religion, but it's a religion. It literally is. These guys think that if he doesn't get elected, and there are people that think the same thing up here in Canada, if Trudeau doesn't get elected, if Poilievre doesn't get elected, life is just not worth living. Or
that the, as much as I support the idea that we need to make a change, I'm terrified about the option. But I'm also comfortable, and you and I share this, that even with the guy we have, yes, he's had an impact. Yes, I don't like him. Yes, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I think he needs to go away, do something else. And yes, I don't like the next guy. I'm probably going to have lots of issues with what he does. I still, the overall impact on my day to day, because I don't allow it to have as much of an impact, is minimal, right? Mm-hmm. Down in the States, I can't make a comparison between how much impact a president has versus a prime minister in Canada. But at the end of the day, how much are they able to do? How much is that one guy? That's why I find it funny when people are like literally think that this man is controlling what I'm saying on my radio show, right? When I have a liberal comment, even though I'm probably more right wing than I am left wing. But literally, we had people saying, "Oh, So you're just following the script of Justin Trudeau. And I'm like, yeah, as a matter of fact, he sends a fax on our talking points every day, right? And it's amazing that there's people out there that take it that seriously, like you said, that their day is, but it works both ways.
Dude, if Trump loses, a lot of people are going to kill themselves.
You
Like,
think so? I don't know.
I really do. Like, I talked to someone the other day about if Pierre Poilievre wins. And there's like, if he wins, I will be ecstatic. I will be ecstatic. I'm like, why will you be ecstatic? And they're like, because I fucking hate Trudeau. I'm like, okay, good. That's not a reason to be ecstatic because you hate somebody. But why would you be happy? Because he's the best. Okay. What happens if he loses? I'm going to drive to Ottawa. Fucking show my displeasure. I'm like,
I think
over a nerd, over a political nerd,
say,
you're over a ruler. You're gonna, because you got the wrong rule. Like, you literally, and this is the fucking crazy part. We're electing rulers, people that tell us what to do, people that can manage our lives, people that can lock us down, people that can do those things, and you have voters, human beings that are like, yeah, that's my guy. So much so that I'll paint my face and give him my money. I love that nerd. I love that guy's politics. Why? Because I hate the other guy. It is really easy for me to see what the problem is here, and it's stupidity above all else. And you know that, and I know that. But, dude, it is like what we just watched is not stupidity. It's fucking dangerous shit. Like, when you're that angry.
See, that's
that
a crazy thing.
That's sad. Like, you're crazy.
Where I think you can separate this a little bit and have a more reasonable conversation. And I saw it. We saw it a bit when Trump won the first time. I mean, I remember hearing, I'm moving. Like, and I hear it in Canada too. If Justin wins again, I'm leaving. I'm going to the United States. Are you? You're going to sell everything and go to the U.S.
Like, are you that serious about it?
So I think there is a level of mental illness for some of his followers that you've touched on. But I think if you take it out of that conversation, you just have it. I remember, I'll use an example, and I don't know this man. I've never been in a room with him, but I've listened to his podcast for years. Mark Maron was going. He became unlistenable at some point because he was so over the top about it. He's really calmed down, and he does less politics now. But there was a point where I was like, and on the other side of it was Adam Carolla was like, all right, it's too much. It's too much. He was way, way far right. Just like I had to turn it off. And for a long time, I couldn't listen to either one of them because one was way too left and the other one was way too right. I was just like, both of you need to stop. But I remember Mark Maron was like, I'm moving to Canada. That's it. I'm going to Vancouver. But he never did.
No, of course he didn't.
And I think there's a sense of that with some people that are so upset about how things go, and they have so much contempt for the person that wins or doesn't win that they don't know how to deal with their own emotions. They don't know how to process it.
I feel sorry for those people. Like, can you imagine the jail that you're in mentally when you feel like you need to go waste an entire day crying because some guy might get
for Mark Maron.
I felt bad that he was losing his mind.
Because I thought that he was going off the deep end because of how upset he was about the direction of the country that he has zero control over.
That's the key.
And here's a guy that interviewed Barack Obama. He had one of the biggest podcasts in the last 10, 15 years.
Some people consider him the godfather of podcasting, Mark Maron, right?
Yeah, he's one of them. He's one of the guys.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you bring up a good point. What happened? When did we get so excited for politics?
I catch myself.
Give our minds to people.
I don't want to be hypocritical, and I am self-aware that I catch myself every once in a while, like getting squirrely. I've been better in the last, I'd say, couple years. But there were moments where I was like
losing your mind,
getting pulled aside by the wife, going, "Lock, you gotta Stop. Just stop watching it. Just stop. Because I can't have a conversation about this every night with you.
You know what's crazy is that I stopped watching the news for probably the last 2-3 months.
You've gone down some rabbit holes.
I have never felt better. To your point, I was a mess during the pandemic like everybody else. It was all about personal responsibility, trying to keep your family safe. Everybody was militant about it, right? And I get it from the other side, same thing. But, you know, get your fucking mind back, people. Like, sure, it was chaos, all that other stuff. Take your mind back. Don't give it to fucking politicians. Or if you're going to give it to a politician, give it all to them, not just part of your mind. Go all in. Look like one of these freaks. It's the scary part is that these are the kind of people that are be willing to do something very dangerous to other groups of people, right? Not just maggots. You see it all the time from the polls, like the extremes on both sides. Is that those are the people that didn't have the ability to pull their heads out of their ass during that time, right? Like you see it now where everybody's still talking about vaccines and vaccines again with the COVID shit. Stop talking about it. Stop it. Go about your business. If you have a problem with it and you have a problem with how someone else perceives the time that we live in, let them have a problem with it, but let them have the problem. Don't make it yours. These are people that have willingly given away their lives, and I've been trying to figure this out for like years, where you see the freedom movement being what it is, going and spending time with David Parker, who, by the way, is getting his teeth kicked in online. I needed to understand it, and I understand it today. A lot of these people,
I don't think I do.
A lot of these people are so broken. And here's the thing. You want to invent a religion, which Donald Trump did, right? He invented a cult. He is the grandmaster of MAGA. He is. He has all the email addresses. He tells people time and time again the damage and the harm that will befall them if they don't support him, give him their money, give him their vote, if they don't harass people on his behalf, if they don't go to the fucking, what do they call it? If they don't go to Congress on January the 6th, that the world is going to end. All of your problems will end if you give me all of your support. That is what is actually known in evolutionary psychology as an interpersonal religion. It goes from cult to religion, basically the exact same thing. And an interpersonal religion, there are three kinds. There's spiritual religion, there's an ideology religion, and there's an interpersonal religion. Spiritual is religion, right? Ideology is an ism, could be nationalism, feminism. Those are ideologies. They're religions as well, right? All of the isms are religions. And then you've got the interpersonal, which is the cult of personality stuff. And it is the same playbook for every single person. The first thing you do is you tell a group of people you're willing to die for them. I'm going to do this for you. And then the second thing you do is you tell them I'm the only person that can save you from this hell that you're in. And everybody has different values, so you can literally target that at a group of people who do not like secular values. And that is exactly what he's done. He's gone after the religious right. He's gone after the evangelical community, the Catholics. He's done it with really hardcore cultural conservatives. And they're all lined up behind him because he's also attached a business perspective and a money perspective, and it's all hope. You give a bunch of people like that hope. You give a bunch of people who have nothing. You give a bunch of people who hate their lives because they're either dumb, they've been misled, or they're unwell. Hope. And you tell them, if you send me money, dude, it is televangelism 101. Send me your money and I will fight for you. Give me this and I will go do that for you. And it is time and time again, thousands of years of human history, the most proven method of being able to create your own religion or your own cult. And dude, it's happening in Canada too. And by the way, the LGBTQ cult, that is a religion as well. It is absolutely a religion. You tell people that you're going to go fight for them, give me money and government grants, line up behind me and I'll protect your rights. And we're going to go after those people. We're going to hurt that group of people. And we're going to tell people, listen, if you're not with us, you're against us. It's finding that common enemy, which is point number 3. Tell your group of people that you have a common enemy and your common enemy is my common enemy. And you're going to give me all your support and I'm going to go fight that common enemy for you. Well, then you alleviate any work on behalf of those idiots, right? Those idiots then go, fuck, awesome. Give that guy my money.
Nailed it right there. The essence of everything you're talking about right there, you just nailed it. Because what he has done is he's given them a reason to be upset at why their lives are the way they are, which releases them from any responsibility.
Big
And I
time.
think we are back to the victimhood conversation. And I think that's who he's preying on. He's preying on the people that need somebody or something or someone else to blame for the reason why their lives have not gone the way they wanted them to go. And you're dealing with people that aren't self-aware enough in a lot of cases to explore why they might be the reason why they are where they're at.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Personal
No,
responsibility.
you did.
Yeah.
You nailed it with your comment about, giving them in another reason to, anyway.
It's old school psychology, slave and master mentalities, right? Is that you got masters that are elites and you got slaves that are not. The slaves and the people that think like slaves are sitting there going, okay, our lives suck. And then you got a guy going, hey, not only does your life suck, I'm the only guy, because I'm not a politician, that will make your life suck way less. I'll get rid of the gatekeepers. I'll do all this other stuff for you. All you have to do is put a recurring donation on your credit card for $99 a month. And I'll take care of everything for you. Your life's going to be great. Well, guess what? There isn't a human being on this planet, not a human being on this planet, whose life was ever made better and whose entire life was fixed. Their financial life, their spiritual life, their emotional life, their career life, who was fixed by someone else, by another politician, by another human being, by a God. That has never happened. The only thing that's ever been fixed for you, you fixed yourself. So when someone tells you that they're going to take your agency, give it to me, I'm going to go fight for you, and I'm going to give you all that agency back, it is a lie, because it is virtually, physically, metaphysically impossible for another person to fix your fucking whole life. Dude.
The only issue I have with this whole explanation of what Trump has done, and the cult thing works. It does work. Where there's some loose ends that I have a tough time rectifying in my own mind, rationalizing here, is that what we need to do is you need to give Trump a certain amount of credit for his ability to do this. And that's my stumbling block, because the guy's a buffoon.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's part of the confusion the world's having with justifying this whole thing. Like, if you're sitting there examining this outside looking in, you're going, okay, well, look what he's doing, and he's with the nicknames and he's created this playbook that other governments now are following around the world to secure support and get and move into power, positions of power. But he's an idiot. The guy's an idiot. So it's hard.
But
it's
it
hard
makes you
because
wonder
you
if
have
it
to
is
give him a
him,
certain
though.
amount. You have to give him a certain amount of credit for what he's accomplished, even if you don't like it.
Like,
And
being a
that's-
blunt instrument like that, most of us would have cracked under the pressure of
Deep.
like 1,000 charges in less than a year. Yeah.
And this is going to be what's going to happen down the road. And I think there's a lot of outside influences that have helped him. And I think he's gotten by on his stupidity because the left has helped him tremendously with the gaslighting. And a lot of people are just sick of it. And they're like, all right. Like I said to you the other day,
I'll tell you what, too.
that
The
guy
left,
that lives in San Francisco,
yeah.
worked his whole life, bought a house, has a car he's paid for, has 14 people living in tents on his front lawn. And he's like, I'm voting for Trump.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
You know what I mean?
personal resentment. Yeah, I know, dude. That's our problem. We have this personal resentment and we take it into everything.
He's
We're
been
like,
propped up. He's been
Yeah.
propped up by the mistakes the other side's making, and they're making huge mistakes as well.
I don't understand how the other side can't see it. Like, if you're a
think they know
self-proclaimed
it.
progressive, right? If you're a self-proclaimed progressive, I'm gonna.
You don't realize
quote
how
you
annoying
into
you are
something.
when you're at dinner parties?
You don't realize how much everybody fucking hates you. But if you're a self-prescribed progressive, right, and it's your identity, you're like, oh, this is the most important thing to me. I'm going to head off fascism at the past. I live in a democracy. You might not, by the way, just kind of putting that out there. But if you're one of those people, and you've ever used the old Nazi dinner party analogy, right, where if you're not with us, you're against us.
So many examples of this.
Or it's like, hey, if you've ever told one gay joke, you're homophobic, hey, if you've ever like the circle of purity thing on the left, and how they do the exact same fucking thing. The tactic is the exact same. Not just the virtue signaling, but it's us against them. The us against them strategy is so important when you're coming up with your own religion / cult / movement, because what you do is you create a radical group of idiots who not only act as bank accounts, but they'll act as proxies, and they'll go out and get it for you. They'll go out and tell everybody, no, you can't. Like yesterday, right? Canada announced, along with Finland and Sweden, that, hey, Ukraine, you can use all of our stuff that we're giving you to send bombs and howitzers into Russian territory. And I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's go. And all these people with Free Palestine in their bio started going, you just want a third world war. You're a warmonger. I'm like, no, I'm not. But I understand something, that it's high time that we start sending bombs into the other shithole. They shouldn't just come from one direction. We need to be sending bombs into that country to get rid of their infrastructure, and I understand that. You can say no. I'm going to say yes. But I'm watching these people from the progressive side, and it's the same thing. Once a warmonger, always a warmonger. So they want to create this idea that you need to be immediately invalidated by anything you said if they disagree with you, and that you need to be the new enemy. And so they do that with these catchy slogans, kind of like Trump does it, Polyev does it. Catchy slogans. The Nazi dinner party slogan might be one of my fucking favorites. If I was at a dinner party and after I left, someone told me there was a Nazi at the dinner party, I would suggest I was at a dinner party with 9 people and we didn't know there was a Nazi there. Would I invite a Nazi to a dinner party? No. But if I did and I didn't know he was a Nazi, it wouldn't necessarily make one. But that's how they do these things. That's Trudeau does it. Everybody on the left does it. It's like, that's them. We need to fight them. Well, guess what? They do the same thing on the right.
They're right, so they can't understand how infuriating it is.
And they're not right. In a lot of cases, the left is not right. That those people have their own values. You need to allow them to have their own values. It's militarizing those values and telling the straw man that that's the person that we need to go and fight. That's the problem. And we have it in fucking spades.
And the other thing that we do too is that we make these blanket statements, and quite often this is the problem I have with what's happening, the conversation revolving on what's happening in the Middle East, right? And what we're not doing is we're not separating Israel, Palestine, and Hamas. It just, everyone's trying to talk around it and no one's separating the issues. And so when I get introduced to a conversation about it, I always back out quite quickly. You'll see it on this podcast whenever it comes up. I'm like, I'm out, because this is way more complicated than I'm capable of negotiating.
But the Gaza-Israel thing, yeah, the second you go, oh, it's terrible seeing young children get murdered, they look at you and go, yeah, but you're okay with women getting raped? And you're like, dude, I didn't say that. I didn't say
exactly.
That.
So it's been
the same thing. It's any way that they can create some kind of issue, take that issue and then take it and use it against you, dude. And I said this in the podcast a while ago, right? We're in that time of our lives where even the stuff we don't say, we can get in trouble for it, right? Because I get this a lot. Where's your support for Israel? Where's your support for Gaza? I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to.
I'm going to choose to not talk about it at all, because
where's your allegiance? Where's your allegiance? I got that one the other day, and I said, you know what, sir? My allegiance has always been to Canada and common sense.
But
so
I'm
not talking about this.
Which you can't even support a Canadian decision one way or the other without causing some issue. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
sure you can. You just don't have
like
to give
I actually agree with how our government has handled the situation
by not overcommitting on either side.
Yes, I think they're caught in an impossible situation, right? But I think that we have done an okay job. I wouldn't know how else to handle it. So, and I'm not a liberal, but I think this government has actually done a half decent job in how they've tried to negotiate.
Self-interest again, because you see people who are Jewish talk about how feckless he is. People who are Jewish who are in the entertainment industry, and I see it a lot, shitting all over him for taking the side of Hamas, and I'm like, he's never taken the side of Hamas.
Wow,
he's been pretty quiet about the whole thing.
There was something with a aid organization. We had,
UNRWA. Yeah.
yes, we had pulled support from that aid organization, and then we went back to it. And their point was, we have to do something. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
like, we can't sit by and watch. So we're gambling here in the hopes that even a percentage of what it is that we're trying to send to them gets and might help somebody.
And listen,
right?
It's not that Lochlin and I or anybody else out there that chooses not to talk about it don't understand that Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. We get it. We also understand that the leaders of Hamas are war criminals. We also understand that the people of Israel and the people of Gaza are the victims, not the people who are waging that war, right? So, to your point,
the horrible thing about this,
right?
But
to your point, we don't have any skin in the game, and so when someone says to you, and I see it from guys like Mark Saltzman, Dahlia Kurtz, I see it from a bunch of different people that are in the industry, is this unfettered support for their country and their people, but also the attacking nature, how they're going after people for not saying things. And when they do say things, they get their bricks and bouquets, right? And I'm like, man, it is entirely possible not to want to talk about that and to not be the problem. Right?
And you know what? I think
But
that's
we live
okay.
in a time when
It's kind of it's the safer way to negotiate this, Dean. I think is just, listen, I don't understand the history, right?
And I don't. And here's the thing: I understand the history from a historical perspective. I really do. From
Do you?
In 1948, 1946, the agreement that was signed with France, England, and the United States. I understand it all. I know who the Palestinians are. I know where they come from. I know they are displaced. I get all those things. I totally understand it. I am still not willing to talk about it because I am not willing to be someone's foil in the industry or in the community. I don't care what community or industry you're from. I'm not willing to give anybody that support. I'm not. I'm going to support the people who want the same thing. Dude, Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel what Donald Trump is to the United States. We all know that.
Well, and I think what is not reported on in the West is the pushback he is getting from Israelis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're seeing enough of that. I think there is a growing number of people in Israel that are against how he is handling this war, and I don't think we're seeing that. Right?
Probably not.
But yeah, every time I hear somebody that actually has the courage to jump into this conversation, I learn something about the whole mess that I never knew. That's why I'm cautious about saying I know nothing about the hit, because I realized how little I know about the area and about the history revolving around not just Israel and not just Palestine, but Egypt's role, Qatar's role, Jordan's, Saudi. Like, it
Lebanon.
is such,
Syria.
it is so crazy. Like,
the history of the Muslim Brotherhood, the history of
pop.
Hezbollah, the history of Hamas, the history of
man.
not just Lebanon, but the fight that Lebanon has, Syria, the connection between Russia and Syria in that area, the connection between Israel and the United States. I mean, there are so many different parts to this that people don't understand. All they do is they sit there and occupy spaces at universities and tell everybody that you're a genocide. You're genocide adjacent. That's what I was called the other day because I didn't talk about it. You're genocide adjacent. I'm like, dude, I don't even fucking know what that means. I'm just choosing on. And here's the other thing: as a Canadian, this is gonna sound really heartless. I don't really care. Like, what happens in the Middle East happens in the Middle East. I don't want what's happening in the Middle East to happen here. Like, we had a school shooting the other day at a Jewish school, elementary school. Someone at night came by, popped a couple bullets in the front door of the school. Yeah, and then they tried to light another mosque on fire. I mean, it is on. It is like anti-Semitism season in Canada because it's allowed to be, because the visuals, and this was the whole idea.
There's also the Muslim thing is also happening. There's a
people
lot
are going after mosques too.
Yeah.
Really?
It's happening on both sides.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think what what bothers me more than anything is if let's say I was Jewish and I identified as Jewish and I'm going to school at a university in in downtown Toronto or Philadelphia, somewhere in North America. The fact that I have to deal with hatred or some level of discomfort just to live my life, that's insane to me. That person, one person, that singular person feels unsafe to go to an educational institution and is at home learning online because there's a protest out in front of his school. To me, that's and I'm not agreeing with one side or the other. I'm saying that one person, that individual's life is changing because of a world conflict
on the other side of the world.
And I wish we were all able to just take a step back and go, all right, I can disagree with Hamas and think that needs to come to an end. I can disagree with how the war is being handled, and I can be Jewish, I can be Palestinian, I can be of that.
You can think two things are wrong at the same time?
Yes.
You can do that? Weird.
Yes. And if I raise my hand and make a comment about it in a public setting, that world conflict and what's happening on a world stage shouldn't impact my ability to go to Tim Hortons to get a double-double. But it is. It
shouldn't impact your child's ability to go to school safely.
Isn't that insane?
Shouldn't go to synagogue or mosque safely.
When you're watching that, does that, somebody being yelled at because
of what they believe?
And they don't even, I heard one student commenting, he goes like, I'm Jewish and I'm proud of my family's faith, just like anybody would be. Like if you're Scottish or if you're French or whatever, he said, but I've never actually practiced the religion. Why are people yelling at me?
Is that what he said? Because
crazy.
It's crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
And it was today too. Doug Ford. So Doug Ford, because of the Jewish school shooting. I'll just read this to you. He's now being dragged for being racist, rightfully so. However,
Doug's got to stop talking.
Oh fuck, this guy is so
just
premier of this province.
Do what you're good at.
What he just
fill that face hole with Tim's. Speaking of Tim's, and just
this is what he said.
Stop.
He goes. This is from Colin DeMello, Global News. Premier Doug Ford strongly suggests in a press conference, quote, immigrants are behind the shootings at Jewish-based schools in the province. Quote, you're bringing your problems from everywhere else in the world to Ontario, and you're going after other Canadians, Ford said. Premier Ford then added, before you plan on moving to Canada, don't come to Canada if you're going to start terrorizing neighborhoods. If you want to come to Canada, you want to be a resident of Ontario, you got to get along with everyone. Quote, I don't care what your background, what religion, what your race, where you come from, as he singles out immigrants for shooting Jewish-based schools. Quote, I've had it up to here. Now, I would say 60% of that is actually pretty fucking cool.
I was going to say there's pieces of that where I'm like, okay, Doug, yes, but maybe the delivery. Maybe he lost something in translation.
Fat white guy standing there with a whole bunch of fat white guys going, you're coming to this fucking country, you better fucking, it's the fucking people killing the fucking people. It's the fucking immigrants.
The overall intention may have been good, Doug.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that you're the guy to be delivering it, though.
Here's the thing. He's not wrong about a portion of that. And the portion is, and every Canadian, depending on where you're from, you are not racist if you have a problem with deep immigration in this country that we haven't planned for, prepared for. And when you look at all the different aspects of the people that are running around in protests for Gaza with the keffiyehs on, not all those people are from other countries, dude. A lot of those people were born here. And here's the other thing. I have a problem with people that come here as an immigrant, which I am, for the milk and honey of this country, which they do, which we did, that don't want to submit to the rules, regulations, and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in this country. That he's got me with. Like, I'm like, fuck yeah, Doug, sing it. Absolutely. Yeah. We don't want people coming here to fuck us over. We don't want people coming here to cause problems. And we have caused that problem because we've invited so many people from so many different countries here that are allowed to come and go as they please in their own country in a very different way, which is highly offensive here, right? Doesn't matter where you're from. I'll give you a driving analogy, okay? Immigrants are bad drivers. When they come to any country, doesn't matter. No, I'm not talking about this one. If you immigrate to a different country and they have different rules of the road, you're going to be a bad driver.
There's going to be a learning curve. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
A learning curve. I love how your face
the beginning of the statement was a little tough.
Your ears perked up. No, I'm
coming from terrestrial radio. What you just did
doesn't work.
Caused an hour-long meeting for me.
But it is true. If you come to a new country, you don't have confidence, you don't know the rules, you can't read the signs.
Makes sense.
So sometimes you might get behind someone who's a little slower, trepidatious to make a left on a red, not too sure how four-way stops, and you're leaning on the horn.
I still don't know how traffic circles work, and I've lived here my whole life.
Yeah, I don't either. But I fucking give them a go every time. And then you pull up next to that car that's inconvenienced you, and you want to have a look at them, and they will be invariably from a different country, okay? You're going to get mad at me. People are going to get mad at me. I hope we clip this, by the way. I hope it's a promo. It is not racist to say that. It is not. It is it anti-immigrant? Can be. Depends on if it turns into road rage and you pull up next to him and you go,
I think where we're running into some issues here,
European. Dean. What the fuck?
I think where we're running into an issue here is that you made a blanket statement that you said that all immigrants are bad drivers.
Well, they are, dude. Okay, so I go to England a couple years ago, right? And I rent a car. I have never been honked at or threatened more in a 3-hour period trying to get out of downtown London ever in my life. And I got called immigrant. I got called loser, stupid fucking Yankee, learn how to fucking drive. And I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to drive in Canada.
I'm going to go get some fish and chips. You know what? I have a problem with
what? Here's the thing. I looked at those people that were giving me the finger, telling me I was an immigrant driver, go back to America. Fuck you, Whitey. Like, I got all that stuff. I looked at those people and I went like this. Totally get it. You're 100% right.
I shouldn't be driving right now.
Anything. I took zero offense to any of it. So same thing applies here. Like, you're allowed to say that, and you're allowed to say immigration is a problem. And Doug Ford is allowed to say that if you come to Canada, but what you can't do is say it's those dirty immigrants that are killing all of you. Especially when you don't know. Like, he doesn't know. But he'll say it.
May have been an intention in what you were saying. And
when the white hood comes out.
Goodness to it, Doug. You might not have been the vessel. My problem with immigration is they get free rent and free Toyotas. Like, why?
Everybody, but they all get the same Toyota too. It's a Corolla.
It's
like 15 years old.
I can count. Like, listen, I need all my fingers. I need all my digits to count how many times I've had people tell me in this province that the reason they have a problem with immigration is because they get free Corollas. It's like, where did that come from?
They don't get free Corollas. It's that. I know. Here's the thing. I have asked someone this question who owned a car dealership.
Why Toyota? Why Corolla? And it's come up multiple times.
I'll tell you why. Because they run forever and they're great cars. People from other countries are smarter than us.
Why didn't I get a Corolla? I've actually had somebody say that to me. I could use a new Toyota. Why did they get one? I've been here my whole life.
And you didn't get a free Toyota Corolla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working my balls off in this province.
Move out of the country, come back.
And you come here from Europe and they just give you a free car. Like, I'm like, where did that come from?
Ignorance, generally speaking, right? Same reason why Doug said what he said. He's like, I've had enough of these school shootings. Totally agree. On point. We can't make Canadians be fearful of living in their homes. Totally agree. On point.
Good.
It's the fucking dirty Muslims that are doing it. Bad point, Doug. Bad point. Bad. You went on.
The wheels are falling off the bus.
Anyway. He's right about that too. We should be able to live here and everybody should be able to get along, right? You should. But we
I've always maintained that that on some level I think I think most people adapt to their new surroundings. Like if I move to, I don't know why. I've always had this idea. I've said to the wife countless times, I want to go to Portugal. I don't know why. But I think
dude.
I would attempt to try to learn the language.
No, you'd never be able to learn Portuguese.
I've been told that, but I would try to find a way to communicate, and I would try to be. It's the same thing. Like when I moved to Edmonton, I wasn't an Oilers fan, and I mean this is kind of a weak example, but I became an Oilers fan. Now we cheer, like we get excited that they're in the playoffs, right? So I understand people's when somebody doesn't adapt or there's a perception that they didn't adapt. But I think that's part of the reason why Canada is so appealing. We're a free country. You're allowed to come here. You're allowed to speak the language you want to speak. You're allowed to serve the God you want to serve, and you're going to get an opportunity to raise your family, and things are probably going to be better off here than they were in that other. We have to accept that as Canadians, and I was born here and I've spent my whole life here. We have to accept the fact that what I think where we can have the conversation is, all right, maybe the door swung around too many times. There's too many people in the revolving door. Now we have 30 plus kids in every classroom. We just did a tour of the hospital, the Stollery with Arden Roof Systems because they give back to the Child Life Program. So we were there to see where their money would go and how it's benefiting this community. Got a video coming out. You'll get to see pieces of that. Sign up for the Arden Roof Systems golf tournament, which helps that charity by going to ardenroofsystems.com. Join Dean and I will be golfing in that tournament. But we were there and they're showing us rooms that are not rooms that should have hospital beds in them, that have been converted into rooms with hospital beds in them because the hospitals are overflowing. And this isn't just an Edmonton thing. This is happening right across the country. And our public officials haven't done enough to support the growth in this country over the last couple of years. So the conversation around immigration shouldn't be, we got to stop these whatever coming in. It should be, all right, now that we're where we're at, how do we make everybody's lives better?
Yeah, you should be able to at least have the opportunity to have a conversation about immigration and the negative effects it has had in this country as well, right? Like we should at least, like, from housing to, ER rooms and hospitals that have to be retrofit. Obviously, certain provinces have done a great job of trying to destroy healthcare so they can privatize in certain provinces. So I get that part of it too. But we should at least be able, and this is the part that Doug Ford fucked up. And I know a lot of people are going to get after him, call him racist. And do I believe he's racist? 100%. Totally. I think Doug, I can't prove that he's racist, but I think he's got a hood stashed away in a fucking corner.
Then you take some back.
I can never give all kinds of credit to somebody. I just can't do it. I gotta, especially guys like him. But what he said wasn't out of the ballpark, right? No. What he said is, and I think a lot of Canadians are afraid to say it, especially progressive Canadians, when they see people from all walks of life stop traffic on a busy fucking Friday afternoon when you're just trying to get home to your family because they don't like what's going on the other side of the world, and they're deciding to bring the fight here.
We shouldn't have violence in our own community based on what's happening in the Middle East, regardless of how you view it. Be
taken fucking care of. To Doug's point, he would have been better served if he said that. But we at least, and don't fucking take any of that bullshit from progressive, just block them, right? If they if you say, hey, immigration is a problem in this country, and they go, you're racist, block. It's got nothing to do with race. Doug's comment was racist, but he's just stupid. Like, he's just a stupid idiot, and his cognitive bias comes out because he's a stupid man.
Allegedly stupid.
No, he's fucking really dumb. No, he's super stupid.
By the way, the only people I think we should stop allowing into our country are the French.
Like the French from France? Is that what you're talking about?
If we can put a stop to that, I'm good. Good. There we go. We can end our immigration conversation on that. I'm good with anybody, just not the French.
You know what's funny is I had a French neighbor for a while. He was renting this nice house next to us. He came from France, and nobody on the street liked him. He always wore like you'd have a fucking street party, like Pierre would show up. That was his name, Pierre. I'm like, oh, what are the chances the French guy's name is Pierre? Pierre Alain. That was his name. He was an executive. He had two first names. And I'm like, oh, fuck, Pierre's at the fucking street barbecue. And he'd show up with his wife and 2 dumpy looking kids. And he'd be like, what do you have today? And I'm like, hot dogs and burgers. What is all this? And I'm like, it's barbecue. He's like, would you like me to go out and get some chicken breasts? And I'm like, no, I don't. I really don't. Well, this is not a barbecue for me and my family then. You turn around, I'm like, thank God, because everybody on the street fucking hates you. You should go back to France. I literally said that to him. He goes, what? I go back to France. Mind you, I was in my cups at the time. Is that racist?
But and again, you were Fat Dean. You've changed, and I miss Fat Dean.
Yeah, Fat Dean's making a comeback. All right, dude. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, don't forget.
Because you really wanted to hang out with me today because we were almost closing in on 2 hours.
Well, you were a little late. I was a little late.
That's my fault.
We had some issues. We had some a couple of small tech issues. Dude, I love spending time with you. I love chopping it up with you. And I'm glad we can get through some serious shit too. Let's cover abortion tomorrow. Let's cover abortion.
That you know what? And again, that's kind of like I appreciate where we have taken some of these conversations in the last I'd say 6 months. I think, and then people are going to call you out for this David Parker stuff. Fine. And you deserve every ounce of backlash you get from that. That's on you. But I will say this. I think that the kind of conversations we're having right now are not just appropriate, but needed today. Right. And not only that, here's something else to consider. You got 2 men on a podcast right now that are having reasonable, rational conversations about tough subjects. And we shouldn't be allowed to talk about this stuff. Maybe more so me, just based on intelligence levels. So I'll throw that out there. That's food for thought, everybody. If Dean and I,
we can talk
our
about
level of we can have a rational conversation about some of this stuff, then everybody else should be able to.
Yeah, you should be able to talk, right? Yeah, absolutely, dude. And appreciate you being able to do that. And we have the ability to do that, and everybody should. You don't take this shit too seriously, right? I know everybody's taking the whole idea behind, conservative government or bust, liberal government or bust, MAGA or Biden, all that big. Whatever, man. Whatever. Your job doesn't change. Mock it all. Call it out when you see it. Have some fun with it. Speak fucking truth to power. If you don't want to be considered racist, don't say racist shit. If you want to speak to immigration, but fucking stand there. Have your thoughts, but they don't need to be fucking hateful thoughts or blanket statements. And I think that's where everybody gets in trouble. That's where Doug gets into trouble. He's too stupid for minutia, right? Same thing with Danielle Smith. I mean, politicians are too stupid, generally speaking. So what they do is they'll just make a blanket statement and hope nobody catches it. Well, it's not how I work, and you should be allowed to have a problem with immigration. You should be allowed to have a problem with those
problem with Danielle Smith. I just think that she is not doing a good job of hiding her overall agenda. So a lot of people are seeing through the bullshit, and I think
you're
that
going to go
bothers
to the
people more
Injection
than
of Truth conference. I kind of want to go.
You should come.
June 17th, Injection of Truth, just for the popcorn and politics portion. I would like to go.
All right.
See you, dude.
That was a good one today. Thank you.
That was fun. Thanks. Lochlin Cross. Ladies and gentlemen, at Lochlin Cross on Twitter is where you can find him, the Locker Room webpage, merch page. Google the Locker Room, Lochlin Cross. You'll be able to buy yourself some nice Locker Room material. You can also sub to their YouTube channel as well. Brought to you by our friends at Ardent Roof Systems. Listen, my friend Stacy Dissetel, he's putting on a golf tournament, and I'm going to be there July the 5th. I want you to go to ardentroofsystems.com and sign up for it or donate if you can. All the money goes to Stollery Children's Hospital and the Stollery Child Life Program to help kids feel like they're not in the hospital when they're in the hospital. He's donated almost $70,000. He wants to pump that up to $100,000 this year. So make sure you go to ardentroofsystems.com. If you need a quote for a roof, eave, siding, whatever it is, he is the best in Alberta. He is Owen Corning's Platinum certified. He is the best dealer in Western Canada, and he's the nicest man you'll ever meet. You can trust him with everything you own. So make sure you give Stacy a call. Support his support as well for the Stollery Children's Hospital Child Life Program by donating. Buy a foursome. We're going to golf with you. We're going to be out there at the Ranch Golf and Country Club. So enjoy yourself with us July the 5th. Go to ardentroofsystems.com, donate, sign up, get a foursome, and we will see you July 5th. We'll see Stacy July 5th as well. Thanks to our friends friends at Cantork for making this possible as well. Colin and his group. I had dinner with Colin and Alex Tagliani last week. Alex and Colin worked together on the Pinty's NASCAR race team, the Tagliani race team. He's a sponsor, as is Cantork, and he's got incredible torque wrenches that he distributes worldwide for very specific issues. They make rugged, hardworking torque wrenches the world over, and they're Canada's leading industrial tool experts, the best in sales, service, rentals, calibration, and maintenance, as well as, of course, custom fabrication of an industrial torque tool solution. Loosening, fastening, you don't know what you're doing because it requires something that hasn't been made yet. That's where Colin excels. And he makes torque wrenches for heavy industry worldwide out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. That's where he manufactures. Go to cantork.com, check out their new podcast, check out their new product line, check out their services and their new website, cantork.com. Again, cantork.com. Check them out today. As always, brought to you by the ladies at Muse and their new podcast called Muse on the Mic. You can go and get it at Patreon. Give them a couple of bucks and you get the uncensored version of Patreon. The free version is a YouTube. That is censored. Patreon is not. Learn about the industry. We just had them on the show. I love these ladies. 15 years. Are celebrating the first week of June, being in business, protecting women in the industry, advocating for women in the industry. So go to Mushe Massage Spa for more details. Download their podcast wherever you get it, including Crier and the audio version. Anywhere you get your fine podcast, go to crier.co for more details. And brought to you by Fact Check, the world's best disinformation killing software, faktchek.io. We've got scientists, journalists, evolutionary psychologists that are, we can probably kill disinformation in its tracks if we tell people who did what, where it came from, if it was paid, and give you the full epistemology so you can have full agency of control over everything that you read online. Go to faktchek.io and check them out today and sign up for their beta program. They need beta testers. That's right. They need you to test their shit. So go and break it for them. Become a verified fact checker at factcheck.io. Do you believe? Have a fun day, everybody. Thanks for doing this. Thanks to Lochlin. Thanks to Em. Thanks to Riley for joining us as well today. We'll see you right here on this very program tomorrow. Have a fucking great week, everybody. Mini Friday, Thursday. It's the weekend. Bye, y'all.